We all know that the First Amendment guarantees freedom of worship, speech, press, assembly, as we're doing here today. We all know pretty much what the contours and the meaning of those first four freedoms are that are mentioned in the First Amendment, because they've been the subject matter of lots and lots of lawsuits, and the Supreme Court has held forth. So we know what our rights are, and we know what the government's obligations are. The last 10 words of the First Amendment, though, the right to petition for redress of grievances, the accountability clause, put there by the founders to enable us to hold the government accountable when they violate the rest of the Constitution. The meaning of those 10 words has never, ever been declared by any court in our history. Okay? And so we have been relying on it, and we've been petitioning. And as you say, the government has not been responding. This is the latest issue. So what now? This is the capstone grievance. We're not just talking the war powers clause, the privacy clauses, the money clauses, the tax clauses, and the violation and so forth, with no answer. Government unwilling to justify its behavior. We're talking about the natural-born citizen clause. We're talking about putting somebody, giving somebody the power to the nuclear football, giving somebody all that power without knowing whether he's a natural-born citizen and where his loyalties and allegiances really lie. Okay? Pretty serious matter. We're over. The Constitution is not a menu. We don't get to pick and choose what's part of it we like and which part we're not going to. So what is it what is a free people to do? What is the appropriate next step for a free people? Here's where I'm at after 30 years of this kind of work and getting to this point. We're going to now ask people in all 50 states to choose themselves 3 people to send to a month-long Congress. Call it a Continental Congress. Call it whatever. A We the People Congress, to discuss these issues, to discuss what's happening to our republic, this constitutional republic, and what we, as a free people, intend to do about it. What will we do about this? Collectively, by the numbers. Remember Gandhi. Gandhi said when people are up against unjust and uncivil laws, and they're entitled to reform or change, and Martin Luther King was a strong student of Gandhi, he said you'll get it only if you follow a 3-part formula. You have to be proactive. You've got to be in their face all the time. You have to be nonviolent, and you have to have a critical mass. You have to have mass movement. It's almost virtually impossible. It is impossible for individuals or even small groups to prevail today against unconstitutional behavior by those wielding governmental power. We have to do it by the numbers, and so we will have a Congress, a We the People Congress. They will come for a month. They will roll up their sleeves and they will decide. The founders, when they were faced with their... What action do you think is appropriate? Well, we'll find out. We will, you won't get me here today to say what I think we should do, nonviolently, but that will come from this group. Believe me, it will come. We're in a situation today, my copy of the Declaration of Independence, it takes 5 pages. 3 of those pages are devoted to a list of the grievances that our founding fathers had against the government of the day, their government of the day, a government that had been in place for 150 years in those 13 colonies, okay? The strongest government on the face of the earth, ruled the seas, standing armies everywhere, and these people had grievances, and they petitioned for redress of grievances, and there's a list of them. It takes up 3 pages. Right at the end, listen, sorry, I'm just about finished. Right at the end of that listing of grievances, read what the scholars call as the capstone grievance. And we have petitioned for a redress of these grievances, and our repeated petitions have been met only, or answered only by repeated injuries. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which will define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. And that clause made it through every draft of the Declaration of Independence, with the exception of the addition of one word, the word free. We are a free people. And if we have a government that is going to violate this document, which just sits here and can't defend itself, And they're going to violate these provisions, and we're going to call them on it by petitioning them for a redress or a remedy to these grievances. And if they're going to blow us off, they're not bound by this anymore, they've broken the chains, then we're going to get together and we're going to decide what to do about this.
One last follow-up. I mean, isn't the forum generally, isn't it generally believed that the forum for redress of government is the courts? And aren't you effectively saying that if the courts aren't giving you the redress that you seek?
Sorry, the judiciary is but one of three branches of the government. And it is clear from this experience and many other experiences, including We the People versus the United States, which the Supreme Court decided early this year, when we asked them for the meaning of those 10 words, and they said the government doesn't have to listen or respond to the people. Wow, that's a Supreme Court. Didn't want to hear that case, but that's what the Court of Appeals in D.C. said. Okay, in spite of Judge Rogers' separate 9-page opinion, which said, wait a minute, these people have raised a constitutional argument here. Never, she said, I checked the briefs in these other cases. They've never responded. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Supreme Court handles this case. Well, it's interesting, all right. They decided not to hear it. They don't want us to know that we are the final arbiters of the Constitution and we can hold them accountable one way or the other. Yes. Member of the press? Yes.
James Manch of Virginia Chronicle. Get things back somewhat at the focus of things.
Yep.
If you were to have an Asian whose father was from Hong Kong and you had the same situation, also a British protectorate compared to Kenya, we wouldn't have a different situation. I mean, the situation would still, the person would not be eligible. It doesn't make any difference of his race. That's a first question. Second question, let us presume that the Supreme Court does honor the Constitution and it says that qualifications, this person isn't eligible. Does that then make Senator Biden the person who would receive the votes of the people and become president? And then third, is the situation in relation to the media not covering this, that Mr. Obama served on the Annenberg Foundation, and Annenberg is a well-known media influence in the media of America? Those three connected questions.
All right, first of all, with respect to the parentage of a child from Asian parents, yeah. Let me answer it this way. Under this decision by the Supreme Court today, by not touching this case, Fidel Castro, his son, could marry an American, and their child could be a natural born, could be president of the United States. That's what that means. Prince William of England, he can marry an American, and their child can be president of the United States. We need the Supreme Court to define what that clause, natural born citizen, means. And nothing, and until we get that determination from the highest court in the state, we're not going to know the answers to those questions.
Well, presume that they do honor the Constitution in that provision. Would Senator Biden become the new president?
That was your second question. I guess it all depends. I'm no expert on this, but it all depends on where in the electoral process we are. For instance, they haven't cast the state electors have not yet cast their votes. They'll do that on December 15th. If Mr. Obama were to be declared ineligible between now and the 15th, one of two things could happen. Either those state electors are released from their obligation to cast their votes for Mr. Obama and are then free to cast their votes for anyone they choose, anyone, I guess, or it's possible that if Mr. Obama is ineligible, then so are his electors that we voted for by voting for him. So we've never been there before in our history. It's I don't know the answers to the questions, and there are more questions than.
That's the most immediate issue.
Yeah,
that addresses beyond
I understand. It,
and then the final thing is
and then,
media influence issue.
yeah, I think when Mr.
Annenberg Foundation.
Yeah, but when fact check, you know, I guess we're to worship at the altar of fact check, you know. But when fact check said, "Gee, this certification as opposed to certificate that Mr. Obama posted on his website and fact check reviewed it." Not only, as I indicated earlier, is the information on here very insufficient to determine the questions at hand, But fact check should have disclosed their conflict of interest, I think, in my opinion, my humble opinion. There was a conflict of interest with fact check because they're an arm of Annenberg, and Annenberg, Chicago, my understanding is, was formed by Mr. Ayers, and Mr. Obama chaired it. So it's kind of like asking yourself, is this okay? And the answer is yes. It's authentic and so forth. Yes, Phil, to answer that question?
If I could. To answer both questions, this gentleman's and yours. First off, I am determined to continue the fight. If the Supreme Court doesn't give my injunction, then hopefully I'll still wait for them to acknowledge the writ of certiorari, and hopefully we will have standing. They will hear the argument for standing. That has not been turned down at this point.